Okay. So my name is Tim Martin. I'm Vice President of the Falmouth Genealogical Society, and we're actually doing our first live meeting after 2 years. I think it was May. Our last live meeting, I think, was Al Moniz on his Portuguese grandfather, I think. And then we went into Cloister. And so here we are back, and it's nice to see live people here. And some of you, in fact, that are here today, I know have not been able to go to, a single Zoom meeting. So this is your first meeting in 2 years, and it's good to be back together. But Jerry, I'm going to hand you a mic, or maybe, you know what?
Sure, I can speak.
Jerry,
thank you. Welcome, everybody. As Tim mentioned, this is the first time in 2 years thereabouts since COVID that we've been able to really get together as a group in person, and it's great that we're able to do so. You get more interaction from folks, and I think that's really what the society is. It's all about. A couple of notes to pass on. We've got a number of board members here, and instead of me, giving you a quick update on things, I'm going to ask a few folks. Ray Howell, our treasurer, to give us a little update on our finances. I mean, it's always something that folks want to hear about. Ray, can you just give us a thumbnail where we?
Yeah, Ray, come over here, just by this microphone. It's a little logistical thing that'll help the Zoom people.
Yeah, our as of March 31st, 2022, our fiscal year ends May 31st, so we've got just a couple more months. But as of March 31, 2022, the total income year to date was $5,481, and our total expenses year to date are $3,249.51, leaving us with a net profit year to date of $2,231.49. So I would say the society is in good financial shape. Any questions?
Anybody have any financial questions at all for Ray? Well, he's up there at the podium. It's a great opportunity to sort of press him for anything,
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Ray.
Good.
That's great.
Oh,
We do have, we split up, Ray was handling both membership and treasury for a number of years. And we have broken that down, and we have one of our new board members, Marguerite. Are you back there? Marguerite, come on up here. I know you're probably not prepared to say anything, but it's always nice to put a face with a name. And Marguerite is our membership chair, and she's already starting to make a good deal of changes in trying to spur new membership. So we'll be seeing some events that would help in that process. Anything you want to pass on to us, Marguerite?
Excuse me.
That's okay.
I wasn't prepared. You're right. Invoices, naturally, money. Invoices will be coming out in June of this year. And right now, currently, we have 69 individual members and 62 family members. So if people are looking for, outside activity, naturally tell them about it. We have upstairs on Tuesdays, 2 to 4, if you haven't used any, of the volunteers, and helping them if you get stuck with something, and we're here to help you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marguerite. Appreciate that. One of the things that in the off season, it's been 2 years, but the society has done an awful lot within the town. I know that Tim has got a relationship started up with the Falmouth TV in a broadcasting, and they had gosh, I don't know how many old tapes of the society that went back to the early 90s, I think it was. And one of those tapes was a a gentleman who was projecting an overall history of the group of folks here, the early Portuguese coming to Falmouth. And believe it or not, we get a letter from one of the prisons in Massachusetts that some of their prisoners were looking to do some genealogies and they wanted access to it. And I thought that was a rather unique, inquiry into genealogical information and Cape Verdeans. And we provided the information and we've gotten some good feedback from them. So sometimes you give a helping hand in many different ways. That's a good one. We also did some work at St. Barnabas to help out doing some research into some of the early founders of the church. And there's some activities going on at the old burial ground that we volunteered to help in that process, although nothing has really materialized to date on that, for the society. But we keep our hands out there in looking at things that we can do to be good citizens, within the town. Ralph, you've got some delegate on our Mass Genealogical Council. Is there anything specific you wanted to pass on to the group here?
Well, there is a seminar going on right now. If you go to mgh.org, you can get a rundown of what the topics are available. It's a $49 charge to take advantage of it, but it runs all month. So you're not too late to sign up and enjoy some good lectures.
Super, that's great. We're still quite a ways off from our NERC conference, but as the months go by, we will provide updates on that. That won't be until April of 23. I could go on, Tim, but I think you probably want to shut me up right now.
That's enough, Jerry. All right. All right, good. Let's get to our speaker, Colleen Herder from the Woods Hole Historical Museum. I roped her into giving us a talk, and here's my bio for Colleen. Colleen Herder has resided in Woods Hole in
Well,
Falmouth.
that's not true. I've resided in Falmouth, but
Wait a second, you wrote this.
no, I didn't say resided. I worked.
All right, fine.
Anyway, no, I did live in Woods Hole for a while, but that's all right. I've been around
All right,
since
okay,
75.
fine. You can make corrections as I read this. Since 1973, after graduating from Wheaton College. Now, which Wheaton College was
The one
that?
in Norton, Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts, okay. With a degree in art history. She worked at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in the MBL Huey Library from 1975 to 2012. Since retiring, she has done volunteer work at the Falmouth Historical Society and more recently with the Woods Hole Historical Museum, where she took over as archivist in February 2020 upon the retirement of Susan Witzel. She has long been interested in local history as she lives in a 19th century home. Her husband's family has lived on the Cape since the 1630s. She utilized the genealogical resources at both the Falmouth Historical Society and the Woods Hole Historical Museum when she researched his Mayflower heritage. So, so here's the PowerPoint, and you're gonna, thanks very much for
Okay.
standing up for us.
Okay.
I'm gonna give a little more light. Is that okay?
Oh, yep.
How about that?
All right.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the archivist at the Woods Hole Historical Museum. Our director is Debbie Scanlon, another old-time Woods Hole family. Our vice president, what are you, vice chair? Vice chair. Chris Poloni is here, as well as the gift shop manager, Sandy Gifford, and we'll be going over the gift shop. I'll start off by going to our website, which is we just recently had revamped, and it's a lot prettier. So I'll start with just an overview of the visiting the campus and what we offer. I don't know if you're familiar with the museum. It's right as you enter Woods Hole, right next to the right of the Woods Hole Library. And the main, oh, this does, okay. So the Bradley House here is where our exhibits are. My archives and a reading room are upstairs on the second floor here. This is the Yale Workshop. And then over here is the Swift Barn, which houses the Boat Museum. And we are open Tuesday through Saturday during the summer, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays in the off season. And there's the Swift Barn. This tree just recently was taken down, so you have a better view of the barn. And inside that are old, some boats, an old Spritzel, smaller boats, some models and
Colleen?
things. Yeah,
I forgot to do something.
what?
We need to share the screen. Let me do that.
Oh, okay.
And I hope this doesn't, I'm gonna minimize, well, let me see if I can get to it here. I'm very sorry if
All right.
is it gonna be here? No. Here? Oh, come on, mouse. Okay, share screen. Oh, yes. Let me enable screen sharing. Just a minute.
Well, being the first time we're doing this, you know, with some live and then Zoom, right? Always some new ground to take care of here. We are fortunate within the Falmouth area in various areas that we have such a
Forgot to
strong
use.
historic presence. And I think that says a lot for the community.
Oh, the Falmouth Historical Society is great. I really enjoy doing volunteer work there. And between the two places, it's amazing, the history of this area.
It is, you know, I think we've got a gentleman, Tom, down there who does tours, doing pulling together the sort of a history of General Demick, you know, down there, buried at the old mill cemetery, looking to do some Revolutionary War reenactment, some other historic aspects of that later in the year. So it's a tremendous amount of activity. So, but go ahead. Tim,
Okay.
we all set or?
Yeah, that's, these little screens are showing up here.
Yeah, just push them down.
Yeah, all right, moving on. And then we have the Yale Workshop, which was donated by the family of a Quissit man who was a pediatrician, but he also, as you can see here, he had a lot of other interests. And the shop itself has his tools and fly fishing stuff, and it's just it's a nice little exhibit. So tours, we are very fortunate. Let me get out of here. To have Rob Blomberg, who himself is descended from Woods Hole people. I think he gave a talk here at the library a month or so ago. Anyway, here's Rob. And so he gives a walking tour of Woods Hole that's very popular. He also, in his off time, also gives tours up at Fenway Park. And so you can have him do a walking tour if you meet at Tuesdays at 10 a.m. during the summer, and he will also do tours by appointment. Or you can do a self-guided walking tour. And oh, on the back table there, I left some material, including our walking tour booklet that you can take. They're free, and then you can walk around Woods Hole and by yourself and just look at the various historic areas. And then there's also virtual walking tours. It's a video that we made so that you can view that too. The gift shop. This is the gift shop. It's online and in person, so you can go in and shop if you're in Woods Hole. And this shows samples of some of the items that are for sale there. And again, you can order them online. We'll ship them to you, or you can pick them up, or you can come visit. Right, Sandy?
Right.
Now, how do we get back to the other screen? You know, the trouble is, Sandy, it opens up its own browsing window. Ah. Well,
You're wanting to go to the PowerPoint now?
no, what happened? that gift shop opens up its own browsing window. And so I couldn't, and because all this junk's here, I couldn't get back to the other one.
Yeah.
So, hold on.
You want to be back.
Yeah, I have to go. Yeah, but I have to get up to the, oh, great. I have to get up to the search bar and it's.
Maybe you have to reopen it. Looks like it's gone, right?
Well, it's now the mouse. Okay, there we go. The mouse isn't working. Let's see. We were using Chrome, right? Not Firefox. I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think the default is Chrome.
No, at least I can type on this one.
This computer is just set up this week by Peter Cook. We tried desperately to get all what's needed on it. It's time for this meeting.
All right, there we go. Okay, bear with me. Get rid of that. Okay. We'll move on to exhibits now. I think we've covered everything with a visit, you know, the usual contact and hours and stuff you can look up if you're interested. Most of the exhibits are in the Bradley House. I mean, all the exhibits are in the Bradley House. And our current exhibit, we have 3 galleries. Gallery 2 we use for rotating exhibits, and our current exhibit there is Left Behind, which is, as it says, explores the archaeology associated with the earliest indigenous settlements on Cape Cod. This is well before the Mayflower came over, the colonial people came over here. And so we actually have artifacts, some of which the aforementioned Ron Blomberg, his grandfather found in the Quistit area, these arrowheads right here, they're beautiful examples. Plus we have other tools that we are borrowing from the Public Archaeology Lab in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. That's where they are, right, Chris? Yep. And we have some tools. We have some videos on flint knapping, which is how they made these tools and arrowheads and things, and timelines. And so that's what's in Gallery 2. In the hall, as you walk into Bradley House, we have a big poster honoring Jewel Plummer Cobb, who was a scientist at the MBL and recently had Agassiz Road they changed the name of Agassiz Road to Jewel Cobb Road. There's a spritzel back there that features an article and more information about her. Gallery 1 is pretty much static. It's the history of Woods Hole, and it's a really nice exhibit with a lot of artifacts and information. And then in Gallery 3, there's a big scale model of Old Woods Hole from 1895. It's really amazing labor. It was done in 1982. So those, anything else, Chris, am I missing on the exhibits?
That's good.
Okay. For events, of course, like everybody else, we didn't really have any live events for a couple of years. We're going to hopefully do the oyster tasting this year, right? We had Zoom annual meetings, and the first summer, of course, the building wasn't even open, but we did open it to limited amount of people last summer with outside exhibits, outside banners and things. And so we're going to have an opening party. We were involved with the One Falmouth Community Fundraiser, fundraiser. And we do an oyster tasting in August. Oh, the conversations, those are, these were monthly, well, before the pandemic, they were pretty much monthly. And after the so our last live one was Terry Soares back in March 10, 2020. And then appropriately enough, we started Zoom and we got this fellow, Don Burke, who is an epidemiologist. He knows Dr. Fauci. And so he did a conversation on pandemics. And then we had Chris Peters, from the Wampanoag tribe. He gave a talk, the film festival. These are some of the recent ones. MBL, Woodwell Center, and the director of Hui. And coming up, this was a popular one, this Brian Spitzer, who does the drone videos. He gave us a talk with some of his footage of his recent films. And then we'll have a virtual one at the end of the month about the model boat show. Oh, we're going to have a model boat show this year of sorts. Virtual. Okay. Okay, publications. So our publications are all available online. I'll start with the dispatch. This is something that Debbie Scanlon and I started in April of 2020. We decided that we could reach out to people online, and we do have a mailing list. And so we just featured we did it weekly for a while, and now we're sort of down to monthly. We'd feature some special history or fact about Woods Hole and do a story around it. Like this one here last fall, that was back to school. This was about the history of the Woods Hole School. I was going to show you. Yeah, this was a popular one because these get posted to Facebook. I don't know how often you get down to Woods Hole, but as you drive by the golf courses on your right and you see names of roads, Glendon, Sumner, and Leslie, and then Hilton Ave, which is down, it's an area called Cherry Valley, right across from the golf course down in there. And it was all developed by this fellow here, Oscar Hilton. That's him with his wife, Martha. And there they are, picture of them with Glendon, Sumner, and Leslie. We named the streets after. And so he came from Maine, and he was pretty resourceful. He purchased this land and started, that was his house here. That's on Woods Hole Road. This picture is taken down from the valley. But he would move houses, like there's the barber shop that was on Main Street, Water Street in Woods Hole. He moved that next to Tom Renshaw's house, and it was called the Peanut. So there it is. It's since been demolished. Renshaw's house, I don't know if you know Tom Renshaw, pretty well-known local Woods Hole carpenter. This was a building that was on Water Street. And so he had that moved to Leslie Street here. And that's him working on it. And this is what Renshaw's house looks like now. This was Mrs. Snow's dry goods store. Well, this got freighted down to Cherry Valley, and there it is there in this house on Sumner Street. And this was a bungalow. Oh, this was a former caretaker's cottage from Fay Road. There it is. And then this one was the garage on Nobska Road, and that got moved. And then this one wasn't moved, but this house, if you've ever been down there, you can't forget it. These two brothers went and lugged stones from all over Woods Hole, across the golf course, and built this house in the mid-20s. So that's an example of the dispatch. Hopefully this is going to go back. Here we go. And you can sign up to receive any of these without becoming a member if you don't want to. We'll just send them to you on our mailing list. Spritzel, now on the table there, we've got tons of extra spritzels. So I brought them back there. Grab any that you want. That's our, it's more of a journal, a journal that the subject matter is Falmouth and vicinity, like it says. So we do have stories on places other than Woods Hole. Now you may wonder, why is there a picture of a horse here? Well, I didn't know this. The fellow who illustrated Misty of Chincoteague lived on Davisville Road. I had no idea he was from Falmouth. And then his next door neighbor, this may be a name that's familiar to you, was George Moses, who contributed to the Falmouth Enterprise quite a bit. So that's our most recent volume. The one prior to that had featured Charles Crane from Juniper Point and other stories. As you can see, they're kind of all over. There's one on Jewel Plummer Cobb and the railway station. And some of these names may look familiar to you, some local authors. And then we also have the main sheet. I've got some examples back there on the table. That's our more of a newsletter, but they're also digitized, and they feature some stories in them, plus updates on, you know, the museum itself, what's going on, the board members, that kind of stuff. And other publications are some of the books that we sell through the gift shop. Okay, so collections, this is what I work on. Right. The collections archives really are they're papers of Woods Hole organizations, churches, business records. We've got some maritime logs, genealogies and house histories, and numerous maps, charts, and plans. The two main sections that take up most of the archive are Woods Hole history. And these are some subject-specific archives that we have. These are the 4 Woods Hole churches, the institutions. And so if you say go to the Woods Hole Library, each one of our archives has what we call a register or a finding aid at the beginning. And you can access this if you want to do your own research to see what we have. But you have to open up this register and then do a search within this to get more about the actual table of contents in the archives. So what I'm working on now, and I'll get into this in more detail, is consolidating all these registers so you can search across the collection from one portal point instead of having to go to each register and seeing what's in it and looking for a specific thing. Uh-oh, here's where. Shoot.
It looks like it's still catching up.
Well, it opens up a new window and I don't know how to get to the other window. And that's what I,
Click on the other one,
well, let me see. This screen on the top here is just hiding a lot of things. The meeting controls. Sorry.
What happens if you click there, that left tab?
This?
Yeah, the left tab.
This?
No, just, no, that right above that. Just-
Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. Thank
Yes,
you.
there
Thank
you
you. Sorry, I'm used to working on a Mac and it doesn't look like this. Okay, so so we do have quite a few individual archives on various organizations and mostly Woods Hole. But we also have a good repository of Quissit papers and Noshawn Island and the Elizabeth Islands. We also have some of their archives. So let me just show you this. So for the ones that we do cover other subjects, but they're all in one big collection of how many boxes? 5 boxes. So these are the smaller collections, like the Woods Hole Athletic Association. Who even knew about that? But there is a folder on that, and any information that we have, you can find in that folder. And so this is alphabetically arranged. And again, you can search this to see what we might have, like Captain Kidd, what we collected on that. And that's another reason why we want to consolidate this all into one big search interface. All right, what else? Oh, the family collection.
Colleen, can you go back and show how you got into that register area?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I had a mental lapse.
No, I may be going too fast. Hold on.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing if I, as an individual, walked into the museum and wanted to find out about, say, the Pacific Guano Company.
Yep.
Then I would go make an appointment
Yep.
with you, or
Yep.
walk in when you were open, and then we would go to that register.
Or I'd probably bring out the archive box for you. In fact, just this week, a BU grad student who was doing a thesis on bird products, she wanted to see the Pacific Guano Factory Company archive, because guano is a bird product. So she spent a few hours going through that archive. But yes, you're certainly welcome to make an appointment. The registers are all in the front, but it'll give you an idea from home if you want to come in and look at what we have. But you can walk in off the street too when we're open.
Through the hours, but none of this is digitized.
No, I'm sorry if I didn't say that. No, the papers aren't digitized
Right.
for the most part.
So you'd have to make an appointment or go to the
Mhm.
museum to.
Or you can ask me. I'd like to see folder such here. Let me go back to one of the folders.
Well,
You-
are you open on Tuesdays and Thursdays?
I'm usually there by 8 and then Debbie stays till 3, so 8 to 3.
Okay.
but you should check to be sure. But say you wanted to see folder 1A here.
Yeah.
I would just scan it and email it to you if you want.
I see.
But you're certainly welcome to come in and look at it in hand.
In other words, this is online,
Yes,
this box list.
yes. So if you,
Yeah, and just show us how to get into it again.
yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, so if you go to collections, and then general collection, each of these, some of these have not been put online with the registers, the ones that obviously aren't. Yep,
Okay, all right, got it. It's all under that collection.
yeah, and then you click on it and that will open it up to the register,
Okay, okay.
and then you search it from there. But then this one here, the register is just the alphabetical listing of the folders. And that's like five or six boxes.
So you can actually do some homework ahead of time.
Yes, yep,
And know exactly what to ask for. when you get
yep. And again, if you just want the contents of folder such and such, just shoot me an email and I can scan them and send them to you.
Okay.
Oh, back to the family collection, which may be of interest to you all. Oops, let me go back. Okay. So about half of the archive is the subject stuff. And the other half are family and individual box collections. And what we mean by that is we have a row of boxes that just have, say, a folder, one folder on various names. And you can browse through this to see if there are names in here of interest, families of interest. So that's the A to Z list. And then down here are ones where the collections are larger. And I'll go to, let me read what it, okay, so it's individual collections and larger family collections. And what it consists of are paper and correspondence, photos, genealogies, news clippings. One instance would be the Fish-Morse family, which was a Quisset family whose descendants gave us a lot of material. So 25 boxes, God. And it gives you the scope of the years that the material covers. And so this gives this usually a history at the beginning that tells about the family and then how we were given it. Miss Susan Witzel did all this. She did a great job organizing this. And then it tells you the contents of it, which you can browse through. We're browsing through all 25 boxes, but that's an example of one. And then another one is the Kroll family, and we'll be getting into the Kroll family. They came to Woods Hole, the Sears Prince Kroll came to Woods Hole from Dennis. And he was one of the he founded a lot of things in Woods Hole, but the Pacific Guano Company was one of his ventures, and his son was the chief chemist there. So that's 6 boxes of Krolls. And there are still Krolls in Woods Hole. Olive Beverly, who was a Kroll, donated a lot of this material for the PCG. Lots of little tabs open
From a
here.
genealogy point of view, that's very valuable stuff.
Yep. And then, of course, the hugest collection is the Fay family, which you may have heard of. Joseph Story Fay was a very famous philanthropist, and he lived in the house that's now the Huey Challenger House, right on overlooking Woods Hole Harbor, Little Harbor. And there's his daughter was a painter and an amazing photographer. She actually had a panoramic camera that she was taking pictures at the turn of the century. And it's just an amazing collection of historic photos of Woods Hole. It's invaluable. And then she worked with Michael Walsh, who was a Rosarian from North Wales. And you may have heard of the Walsh Roses. There was a big garden that's now a community garden, but in back of Fay's house was a big tract of land where there were just amazing gardens and roses. And so that's the kind of stuff we have there. In addition, there's a house collection, which has not been put online. I'm working on that now. It's 11 boxes of information on specific houses in Woods Hole Road. And so I'm organizing that, putting a register together with that, and that'll be something that we enter into this new database system that I'll show you. Yeah, papers in the archives aren't digitized. Register PDFs currently available online must be searched individually, like I showed you. We're transferring information over to Past Perfect database, which is also used by Falmouth Historical Society, which is, I brought that into Woods Hole because I was so familiar with it and thought it was a good database to allow searching across the whole collection. So that is a work in progress. I'll get into that. This is fun to look at, the photograph collection. We've got around 4,000. Oh, it says 5,000. Oh, okay. Photographs available online. I think that might need to be changed. This takes a little while to load, but they're low-res photographs with descriptors, and you can search them. Takes a little while for the search box to pop up. Let's say I put in Nobska. It immediately starts searching for Nobska photos, and we've got postcards, actual photos. This guy, this is Joseph Fay's son, and he built a huge estate out on Nobska. It's since been torn down. There's his wife. So you can do search across the photographs. And if you find one that you'd really like to see a higher resolution copy of, you can just contact me and I can send it to you.
So Colleen, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So it looked to me like with the search function for photos, it only works when you drill into a particular collection, right?
Yes, you have to drill into the photograph collection. Yeah.
Right, and then, yeah, okay.
I'm going to go to a site that will demonstrate what our site will hopefully be able to do. It's one that is currently using this Past Perfect web access, public web access interface. Where are we? Painting. Oh, okay. Paintings and artifacts. We have over 500 items of artwork and frame materials and stuff, artifacts. The paintings, they're currently listed on a spreadsheet that is only on the archive PC. So that's another thing we want to make available. You'd have to contact me to see if, what we would have as far as paintings go. We do have a few paintings and other things. And artifacts, we do have, it's not like Falmouth Historical, which has got thousands and thousands of artifacts because we don't have a lot of room, but we do have a few things. Some artifacts from the Guano Company, from families, from historic buildings that may have been torn down, that kind of thing. Those again are only on a, the information's only on a spreadsheet on my PC. So oral histories, we do have a fairly extensive oral history collection, 600 recordings. There's conversations and interviews. I'm not sure what the difference is, but we've got interviews and oral histories and the conversations. Most have been transcribed. So there's approximately 600 of the conversations, interviews, and oral histories, and many of them have been digitized. So I do get requests for digital copies of some of these interviews, which I can usually send out. The reading room, the Bradley House reading room. We do have a reading room that is got ledgers, logs. We do have some genealogy books in there, and they're currently being cataloged by a steering committee member who's also a librarian. So she's been working on that. That again is a work in progress. All right, let me tell you about Past Perfect then. This is what we're working on now to make this stuff a little more easy for the public to find. So we're currently entering the contents of the paper collections as records in this database. Photographs are already in there. So the company went and loaded all our photographs, so they're ready to go. We're almost finished with the general collection. I'm going to work next on the house collection, and I've got an intern helping me with this, which has been great. He can do it remotely. He worked on it last summer, and he's doing it from college because it's mainly just taking the register, cutting the information, and pasting it into the database record. The public access will be activated once we have a critical mass entered into Past Perfect, so one can search across the whole archives. So if I can figure out how to,
Is, Colleen, is
Yeah.
the Past Perfect project, is that a project aimed at digitizing a lot of the collection?
no, it's just making the information available so that you don't have to go popping into a register or,
Okay,
no,
I've been charged with writing this up, that's why.
oh jeepers, okay.
I wanna get it-
I should just give you my notes then. Sorry about that.
I don't wanna put any inaccuracy.
Yeah, we aren't really digitizing
Okay,
the collection. Some things are digital, but for the most part, it's paper records in archive boxes.
okay, but Past Perfect project is the.
It's just making the records available. It's not,
an indexing system.
yes, exactly.
That works throughout the whole platform.
Okay.
Whoops. Okay. Now I'm going to go to another website just to show you what the interface looks like. Museum. Oh. Okay, hopefully this is gonna, I type this in right. Yippee.
I'm impressed.
Phew. Yeah, it's a long. Anyway, these people have, yeah, here's the logo for Past Perfect. Oh, this is this is the fake one. That's right. This is one that they put up. It is, there are places that do, that are using the public access, but I'm looking at this record and I realize this is the one that they use for demonstration purposes, the company. But anyway, you'll see what, so say you put in the word horse. It's an example to show you how it searches across different types of records. Like there's an actual artifact, there's a picture, another artifact. So that's a book. So you're searching across a variety of different collections, not just say the archive collection. And then this one here might be more to your interest. So if you search across family, you get photographs. And then see, this is the type, the Hanley family collection. This is the stuff that I've been working on, that kind of a thing. So you can, if you search, say the name Faye in this, once our thing is loaded up, you'll get pictures, you'll get artifacts, you'll get papers. Yeah, there's an artifact there.
So you're saying this is an example of a website that has the Past Perfect system.
Public web access system, yes.
Okay.
And this is hopefully what ours is going to be like. We'll be able to do this just typing in a word instead of jumping all over the place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to go to PowerPoint and I'll show you the actual interface, which may be kind of geeky, but let's see if I can. This is going to work. Okay. Yep. Okay, so this is what I work on. It's just how the interface looks for the staff. And there are other components to it that we don't use. I do use it for loans. By loan, I mean outgoing loans to other museums. We borrow and we lend out to museums. We've got the Heritage, one of the Heritage Plant museums, current summer exhibit has some items. In fact, a big blow up picture that we let them digitize. And Museums on the Green has some of our stuff sometimes, and we do loan out. Mostly though, we use this, the catalog is what I use. Oops. And that's the interface. And this is how each individual archive collection looks. I give it a number and a brief description, and then you can click on one of these entries. So here's the one for the Pacific Guano Company, and you get a brief overview. And then this is what the information that the intern and I are entering in. This tells you in box one, This has got a couple boxes, this particular archive. In folder 1, this is a typewritten short history. In folder 3, it is another history. Anyway, it'll tell you what's inside each one of these folders and where it's located in the archives. So it is basically that register that I showed you, but this will then become searchable.
This is not available to the public.
No, this is just the staff interview right now,
Right.
interface right now. And this is what hopefully soon we'll be able to, we'll just have to tell Past Perfect, okay, make our stuff available on the web. But I need to get enough in there to make it worthwhile. So we're plugging away on that. So now I'll switch to pictures, because everyone likes pictures, historic pictures, and I'll focus in on the Pacific Guano Company, if that's all right. Because this fascinated me. I have a mooring in Great Harbor, and I had no idea. I mean, I knew there was a guano factory there, but I had no idea how huge that place was. So I'll give you a brief history of it if you don't know about it. In the 1850s, clipper ships sailed cargo to the Far East and looked for cargo to carry back on return voyage to New England. Guano, bird dung, was determined to be a successful fertilizer, better than manure. And so it was discovered that the islands along the west coast of South America, as well as many Pacific islands, had mountains of guano, several hundred feet thick. So Cape Codders began to fill their ships with it for the return trip to the East Coast. Oh, God. In 1859, the Pacific Guano Company was founded, and in 1863, the factory site was established on Long Neck and Woods Hole, mainly because Great Harbor was the only natural deep water harbor on Cape Cod. Menhaden, fish found in local waters, were mixed with the guano to improve the fertilizer. Later, rock phosphate from South Carolina replaced the guano, and sulfuric acid was necessary to macerate the fish with the guano, and then later to make the rock phosphate soluble in water. So a separate building for the production of the acid was made from Sicilian brimstone. Not made from, the acid was made from Sicilian brimstone. The building certainly wasn't. Depending on the wind, the village was permeated by the odor of rotten fish accompanied by acid fumes. I can't even imagine. The successful industry produced fertilizer for more than 25 years. Then the company abruptly went bankrupt in 1889. A few years later, Long Neck was subdivided, renamed Penzance Point, and became the wealthy summer colony that it is today. The museum PCG archive contains photographs, maps, building diagrams, correspondence, news clippings, permits, promotional material, and other ephemera. In addition, we have, I've mentioned artifacts. We have PGC artifacts like a clay retort used by one of the chemists, which is it's like the glass things you see now in chem labs, but it was made all out of clay, pottery, a metal stencil for cloth bags of fertilizer, an actual fertilizer bag, a souvenir advertising fan, and actual samples of guano, rock phosphate, and brimstone. So we've got a little chunk of guano that actually went on loan down to the Smithsonian a few years ago.
Colleen,
Yeah,
was Penzance Point used as a factory or guano storage point?
no, it was shipped out. Once it was made, it was carted down to the village and the trains would ship it away.
But Penzance Point was not a dumping ground for guano?
No, that was a sheep pasture.
Oh, it's a sheep pasture.
Yeah, the earlier, before it got developed. Yes.
Colleen, those artifacts, do you have any idea what the provenance was, and how it got to you?
Oh, yeah, I do. Olive Beverly. Olive Beverly, who was a Kroll, donated a lot of this collection. But the brimstone was actually found by a friend of mine who was diving off of what's now just a seawall. And he'd been holding on, he got it in the 80s, I think. And he said, I should give this to the museum. And so now we've got all three components of what they used to make, well, we don't have the Menhaden, but used to make guano.
You know why it was called the Pacific Guano Company?
Because that's where they were getting it, island off of Peru,
Okay.
mainly islands off of Peru. And so here's where it was located. So say, here's the Woods Hole Yacht Club, obviously Eel Pond here. And so it was this huge area here. And so from this point here, where the yacht club now is, this photograph was taken. And you can see the clipper ships there loading, unloading the guano. And then I went down to the yacht club on Tuesday morning, and that's what it looks like now. And this is if you're ever cruising in your boat in Great Harbor, you know, you see this seawall. But again, I just had no idea that how many buildings were there, you know, after looking at it for a long time. And so there's I think this is probably a hill. I think this, I'm not sure where this hill is. I think it's maybe over on Gardner Road. But anyway, that you can see just how huge this complex was. I think this over here is where this was one of the vitriol plants here. And we have some photographs of this stone building being demolished. So, you know, you see the plant being demolished. So that, I don't know. There's another photograph of it. And then this was interesting. This is a nice etching, I guess. And my husband, who's a Woods Hole boy, took a look at this here. And he said, you know, that's still there. I said, what? And he said, yeah, they cleared all the brush off of it. There was like rambling roses and stuff. I had no idea. So when I was down taking pictures, there it is. So the guard shack to Penzance. This is in someone's front yard. They cleaned it all up, but that is the same wall is right there, right at the end of the fence. Yeah, I found that interesting. Yeah. And you had nothing here now, just trees. And then at the Centennial in 1876, they had a lovely pavilion in Philadelphia. And there it is, the Pacific Guano Company Pavilion. I know. And then here's an advertisement. Now this name Luska may be familiar to you if you ever go to the landfall, because that's that road that runs off of Water Street down to the steamship. And then Walter Luscombe was a big businessman back in the 19th century. With the spelled hall.
Spelled Woods Hall.
Yeah, that was something Fay did. He thought that it should have been, what's the history there? Because it was something to do with the Vikings or.
Well, that's right. He wanted to make sure that the Vikings got the distinction of finding Woods Hole first. And so it was HOLL. Then the town, when it got incorporated, changed it to HOLE. And Fay, who was very rich, very kind, and helped a lot of people, wanted it changed back, so they did. And upon his death, they changed it back.
His influence only had a certain period of time.
But he was a very kind man. I really.
Oh, and the factory had mostly Irish workers. And so he had St. Joseph Church on Millfield Street built for them. I mean, he just really was an amazing guy, and the land that he donated to the town. And
This is Walter Luscombe?
no, oh no, this is sorry, Joseph Story Fay,
Oh, Joseph.
who was the hall advocate.
Fay had a relationship with the Beebes. I
Yes,
think,
yep.
The old man Beebe, and then didn't Fay's daughter marry a Beebe? Or
I don't think so.
Well, Fay endowed Church of the Messiah.
Yes,
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
both churches, St. Barnabas and Messiah.
and that's that cemetery there, the village cemetery next to Church of the Messiah. Well, it's a beautiful little cemetery. I'm sure you've
Sure.
been
yeah.
up there. But then after taking this job to walk around and see the names of these people that, you know, we have these archives on, it really is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I think that's about it. I'm sorry if I went through it kind of fast, but
Great, thank you very much.
all right.
You know, I was wondering, is there any sort of agreement or understanding regarding when documents come in, whether Falmouth Historical Society or the Woods Hole Historical Museum should take custody, or like, are you ever
Yep.
posed with the problem? And
Well-
how do you resolve that?
Well, I was contacted last year, I think it was 2020 actually, by this guy out in California. And his mother was a caretaker, and I actually knew her. His mother was a caretaker to one of the last Elijah Swift, or that line of Elijah Swift's family. Jessup, I think her name was Elsie Jessup. Anyway, and he had his mother gave, well, anyway, he had all these boxes. It's a long story how he got them. He said, well, they should come back to Falmouth. So he sent them to me. And I got Susan Witzel, who just still is very interested in all this stuff, the Swifts and all these families. And it turned out it was not Eddie Swift of Woods Hole, it was Swift of Falmouth, Elijah Swift. And so I worked with Meg Costello, who is at the Falmouth Historical Society. So we got together and we sorted it through, the three of us, me, Susan, and Meg. And it was determined that just about all of it would stay with Meg at Falmouth Historical. And otherwise, she gets queries or material that comes in and thinks it's more appropriate for Woods Hole, she'll just let me know. And we do have an accessions policy where we have the, as does Falmouth Historical, where the donor signs a temporary custody paper, and then there's a committee that reviews the material to determine whether it's appropriate or not. And then if we decide to accept it, they deed it over to us. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. That's fine, yeah.
We collaborate.
In that loop, they also will contact the appropriate cemeteries. For example, at the Oak Grove, we were contacted, obviously, because of July was down there. And so we got a heads up that that material was available, that we could access if we needed to. I'm sure the same thing with Messiah, which works the same way, the old cemetery.
The other questions. Was great, Colleen. And, I really covered a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now let me
Clean up my mess.
see if I can think about
Are we
this.
still recording?
Yes, we are
Oh, well,
still
then I'm gonna
recording
get out
right
of here.
now. I'm gonna stop the share. And oh, wow, I shouldn't have stopped the share, but let me just say this. Let's go back
Oh,
to,
we didn't know.
here we go. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you what's happening next month. Come on, folks. Why isn't this advancing? Share is off. Oh, no.
In the interim, there are some genealogical books on the table here besides the Spitzels. And if you want one of those books, there is a little cup to put a donation. Well, there was, unless somebody walked off.
Ray, did you get that money?
Right, so let me just mention, quickly next month, whoever designed this slide, it was bad choice of colors, right? But next month, we are sticking with our notion of having meetings on the second Saturday of the month. So that makes it Saturday, May 14th. And we're 10 a.m. Actually, I think the board ought to discuss whether we should start like at 10:30. Just because getting the doors open and stuff, that might be a good idea. So just be aware of that. It's and so we're having, and this will be a remote speaker, but we'll still be able to gather and powwow here. Is the idea. We do want to see each other as possible. And so he'll be on the screen. Ryan Brubacher, he's somewhere in DC, I suppose, and he's from the Library of Congress with their prints and photographs division. And I've asked him to give us an overview of their online catalog and what they have. It's massive, and drill down in particular in two areas. What they have, this large, wonderful collection called Historic American Buildings Survey. And there's examples there I found in Falmouth and Brewster and Yarmouth. And I thought it'd be interesting to look at that. And also, it turns out I found a lot of photos there's this kind of activist photographer named Louis Wykes-Hine, who did a lot of documenting child labor practices. And so he came to Falmouth and did a lot of photography involving the in his view, the child labor practices that were used in like the cranberry fields and so forth. So it's just another look at how there's content at the Library of Congress that pertains to our area in specific. So I thought that would be nice. So that's next month. And so I'm going to stop the recording. How about that?